Today we're going to be making rainbow blend bracelets and pendants and maybe some earrings depending on how far I get with this. My original experiment was to see the difference. This is my original Skinner blend, and I used the colors of the rainbow to get this because I had them out on my work surface. But this was the original one. This one is the original one plus a quarter of part, like 1 part to 4 parts of translucent. And you can see it's a little bit lighter. This, I had my original Skinner blend laid out, and then I added a strip of translucent in the middle and lightened it up that way. And it makes more clay, but it makes your shade a little bit lighter. So this is my original blend. This is a quarter of the original Skinner blend added to translucent clay. This is another one. This is a third of translucent added to the original Skinner blend. So you can see it's a little bit lighter. And then this one I did like Deb Hart did on her live a couple of days or weeks ago when she was making some Skinner blends and some canes for a project on her live show on Clean Up with Deb Hart. And this is just like a quarter of an inch of the original blend over here added to a piece of translucent that was 4 inches by 5 inches. And then I added a strip of the Skinner blend across the bottom, and like I said, it's about a quarter of an inch of the original blend. So you can see how much difference there is in that. And it doesn't really matter. I was just working with rainbow colored Skinner blends and wanted to do some simple bracelets. A string will have so many people beginning in polymer clay and they're not sure what to do, and this is a real easy project. Now the thing that I am going to use is the Sculpey Mold, and I'm going to use the 3 down here, and I have corresponding circle cutters that go with the 3 sizes of the circles, and these will be my cabochons. And then I put together a black, a silver, and a black gold glitter type clay scraps I had to come up with a darkish gray, goldish, silverish glitter type thing I'm going to use on the background. So that's really in some scrap clay to add in between and fill up the mold from my Skinner blends that I made. Now my Skinner blends are all rolled out on a number 3 on my atlas. Let's start with this one. And of course they are long enough to where I can't get all the colors in one bead. So I will vary the colors to go up so the bracelet will match going around your arm. And the beads will be from there. So let's see how many of these big ones I can get cut out of here. And so these will be the separate beads to make up the bracelet. I can't get this size up here. I may be able to get a smaller one. But I can pick up the red in here. That gives me 4. Let's see if I can get this smaller one up here. Yeah. Actually, I think I can get, maybe not. Don't think I can get 2 of those. And let's see how many of this size I can get. I think that's about all of those I can get out of this one sheet. And I'm saving the scraps to do some Natasha bead type earrings, because I'll demonstrate doing 1 or 2, and then it's the same process for the rest of them. And it doesn't matter what your veneer's like or your Skinner blend's like. This works with any Skinner blend or any clay. It doesn't have to be a Skinner blend. But I was just working in rainbow colors, so I'm going to put my circle that I cut out in my mold. Let's go on and do this one. And I will put my tiny one in here. Okay, and we'll take my largest ball stylus and just push it around towards the edges to make sure that the front of all of these are covered in this color of the clay. But you want the colored section to come up to your top edge here. Then I'm going to take some of my scrap clay I mixed up and ran it through my pasta machine and conditioned it. And I'm going to squish it into a ball. And this little ball looks like it will fit right in here. I will take one of my smaller cane benders where I have a tendency not to put so much pressure on. And I'm going to roll out that scrap clay. And you probably heard my parrot say, "Who is it?" I'm not in that living room with him, and he thinks he has to be the center of attention all the time. So I cut the excess clay off, and that may be enough to, maybe a little bit more, to put in this last little one. And I'm going to take them out of the mold to bake them, because I want to put a back on them. I pushed my scrap clay down into the mold and rolled over it with my cane bender, which is one of the smaller ones because I don't have the tendency to push real hard on those. And cleaned up the edges. And then I'm going to slice the excess clay off the top that's sticking off the top of the mold. Be careful not to cut your mold while you're doing this. But you can see that all 3 of them are level with the tops of the molds now. And I'm going to actually take them out of the molds because I want to put a back on them. And just smooth around your sides. You can use your fingers. You can use a tool, whatever you normally use, just to smooth those out. Because you know the more smoothing you do before baking, the less sanding or finish that we do after baking. And I will be putting an edge on them so that little white piece there you see, it won't be showing. So there's my 3 pieces finished, and we'll get ready for the back. Now the back is just scrap clay that I had laying around. There was a little bit of black and some silver and just some things I had laying around. And I took my small quartz roller. It's a round roller, and I like the little ones to make jewelry. On one side of my back piece, because I normally do not put resin or any type of finish on the back of my jewelry. I just normally leave it regular clay. So I just take my quartz roller and I roll down, and when you have an air bubble like that, you've got to pull your clay up and get that air worked out of the bottom of it. So I'm going to take my cutters to match my cabochons I just did. And I'm going to cut them out in all the different sizes I need. And I'll put this same textured backing. I think this is dragonflies. I just wanted a small pattern on the back. And I'll put the same clay backing on all the pieces as we go. Here's my backing pieces with the texture on them. And I'm going to pick them up with my craft blade so I don't distort the shape of them. And I'm going to smooth the edges with my fingers a little bit just to get the rough edges off. And I'm working on a tiny Pandora's glass mat. And it has the grid line on it in inches. And I like to take whatever I'm cutting, like if I'm cutting a cane that's stacked up in a circle, especially like a bullseye cane, I like to put it on those cross lines on this glass mat. And that way I can tell where the center is. Where my X is in my cross lines is where I put the center of my cane, or in this case, is where I'll put the center of my circle so I can use my beading tool to mark the middle. Now see, I almost forgot, but once I got those on there, it makes it much easier. I know exactly where to lay down that tool to make my indentation to hold my elastic cording. And I just press it down and put the top on it, the top cabochon we just made. I'm going to take my blade again and lift this up so it doesn't distort anything. I'm using a Sculpey bead baking kit to actually put these on. That's the pin, I guess you call it, that comes with the kit and has a triangle on one end that holds it up. And on the other end, you put it in a metal bead rack and it holds those, and you can put several on one of those pins. They're like 6 inches long. And before I bake it, I'll show you a picture while I'm lined up in my baking tray. But I just put it on there. Make sure that it moves on there. As long as it moves on there, it will not stick to that metal. I'm using a silicone tool to put my top and bottoms together. And I'm going to do the same thing with the medium size one. And remember, this is the actual size bead that I made the bracelet out of. Doing the same thing, smoothing those edges, putting my top cabochon on my backing. Still it's on my bead. And I'm going to take my blade and lift it up. Now I'll do this to every one of them. This is my same procedure. So let me continue with the rest of them, and I'll bring you back in just a little bit. Got all my cabochons and finished with the tops on the bottoms and the little indentation for my cording to go through. And I rolled out my backing material. And it's on the thickest setting because I, again, used my coarse roller to go over it and put me some texture on the back of this. I'm going to cut strips and wrap around each of the cabochons I made. So it'll give a rustic looking ring because it's not going to be smooth because my texture is going to show. But it's more of a rustic looking ring that's going to go around the outside of all of them and give them a little bit nicer appearance. I've cut the background into strips to put around the outside of the cabochons. And I started where the hole is made on one side and wrapped it carefully around and took it back to where I started with it, and that's where I cut it off. This way I know where they match and come together. There's a hole, so I can put my bead pin back in there to hold it correctly on the bead rack. And you just cut the excess off. And you can use a tool or a rubber silicone tip tool to put this down and press gently. And where your holes are, you really want to make sure that you press that down enough to where it doesn't stick out while it's baking, and then you end up knowing exactly where your holes are. So you just put your bead pin back in through there. And I'm going to take between my fingers, smoothen it out, and the silicone tip tool. And I'm going to make sure that the rim that I just added touches the bottom backing and the top cabochon all the way around, so you have a complete finished look to your cabochon. And then I put it on the bead rack pin and bake them. I'll show you a picture in just a second of how the cabochons look on the bead rack when I'm baking them. So just do it smooth and take your time. Okay, I baked all of my cabochons, and I have put deep shine UV finish on them, and I'll show them to you in a minute. I'm going to do a string bracelet, an elastic string, and this is what I'll be using. It is 0.8 millimeters thick, and any elastic string will work, and I'll show you how to use that in a minute. Most bracelets are give or take around 8 inches long. So my cabochons, which are this size, and I had 6 of them, making my rainbow collars, was not quite 8 inches, so I needed something to go in between them. When I put my deep shine on, I just used a head pin, even though this is a larger bead, to give me something to hold on to while I was applying my deep shine on with the brush. So that was just a little tidbit of information there. And I looked through the stuff I had to see what I thought would look good in between my cabochons. So the first one was just too fat and too big for the bead, for the cabochon. The size of it, the shape of it, and everything else. The silver one all by itself, just a silver ball, it wasn't just quite fancy enough. Even though these aren't really fancy cabochons, they're quite rustic looking, is what I wanted. The one that's sort of like a cross shape, I put it on, and then I put a black bead on, a little black bead, and then I put another cross shape silver bead on, and it was just too long. If you had two beads or two black beads and a silver bead in the middle, I tried it both ways, it was just too much room in between the cabochons and made my bracelet too long. And I can't take one off because it takes a complete set of 6 to make the rainbow collars. So then we got down to where I tried just the black bead. And it sort of got lost because the sides of my cabochons are black or a dark gray color, and it just sort of got lost. Wasn't quite large enough, didn't make any statement at all, so we didn't do that one. And I tried this one, which is smaller than any of these. Either way you look at it, it's smaller than the first round one. It's about the same size as the silver ball. It's not near as wide as the cross is. And it just looked a little bit busy for what I was doing. So I happened to find these in my bead stash. And they're little silver metal beads. They're a little bit round. And I've just got them hooked on eye pins right now, or head pins right now, to see how much length I had. That's what they look like on the end. And I set them all together because I'm looking for right around 8 inches. So if I put all of my cabochons together, these are all on the head pins still, just to get my measurements. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it all. We come up with, let me get this lined up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a little over 8, and 8 inches. So since there is not going to be a clasp on this, because it's a stretch bracelet, this bead right here on the end of this blue and purple cabochon will end up touching this red one over here. The string, elastic string, will go through all of these, and then you just tie it off and hide the ends. So let's start doing that. And like I said, this is a simple bracelet. It doesn't take a lot of supplies to make it, and the ones that it does take, they're easy to get. I mean, of course, you've got some clay. It doesn't have to be rainbow clay. It can be any sort of thing. It doesn't have to be a Skinner blend. It can be canes. It can be just marbleized clay. It can be anything that you have to make this work. It doesn't have to be a Skinner blend. I was trying to come up with something really easy to do. So, that didn't take a lot of specialty items, and that anybody could do it, just to give beginners a place to start, because now they got clay and they want to do something and they don't know what to do because they don't have things. I'm going to cut my elastic string and I'm going to stretch it, because I want to make sure that it will last while I'm spreading this and while people are pulling on it and putting it on. Okay, even though this is elastic spring or elastic string, I'm still going to put one of my spring ends on it to hold it so my beads don't come popping off. Cause sure shooting, I get busy with what I'm doing and forget to watch it. And you just string these on. So first I'm putting a bead. Purple's the end of my rainbow colors. Just slide your string through and pull it through. Time for another silver bead. Then the next one will be the blue and the indigo. An elastic string is hard sometimes to get in where it's going because it's so flexible. And I had just enough of these beads left to use for this, so this is a good thing to finish up these beads on this project. And I'm putting my colors matchings for the rainbow the way that I've got them laid out here, like the blue and the indigo and the indigo sorted together so it sort of looks more like a rainbow. But like I said, we've got so many new people starting in clay, and you get your clay and you get all excited, and there's so much to learn at first. And you watch video after video and get more confused sometimes. And so this is just a nice, easy little project that you can do and make something and wear it that night. It doesn't take a lot to get this done. Alright, let me hold on to this end so I don't lose it on that end. So let me take my little clip off. And let me see how long we are. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, a little over 8 inches with the beads in the center of it. And I think my decision with these little silver beads in the center was a good idea. I like this better than anything else I tried. Okay, here's everything on the elastic string. My last bead is up against the red cabochon. My 2 ends of my string are right here in between the bead and the purple and blue cabochon. And I'm going to do a surgeon's knot right here. I'm going to tie one way, then tie another one the other way. Then I'm going to add a third one for good measure. So I'm going to cut these off, these strings here, these ends. And I'm going to work that knot back up into that metal bead. And that way you won't see the knot. It will be hidden. And that's another reason you've got to get a bead big enough that has a hole in it, large enough to be able to push your knot back through. And I just need to go in and trim those little ends off. Okay, here's my finished bracelet. I tucked that knot right back in this bead right here. I pulled on the elastic cording and put it on there and pulled it, gave it a little tug, and the knot went right in the bead. And here's your finished bracelet. Easy to make, looks cool, and it's something you can do in one day and have it finished. So you all have a nice evening. Thanks for watching. This is simple and easy, and you probably have everything right there to do it with. So have a good time and have fun. Blessings.